be asked to accept that. Just click continue. And Denise and Dustin, go ahead and take it away.
All right, thank you for joining us. Right now is scholarship season, so we're excited to talk about writing winning scholarship essays, and we're gonna get right into it. So our first tip is do your research, be intentional, and consider your audience. So keep in mind who your audience is. Are you applying for a memorial scholarship? Do you know something about who that scholarship was named after, if it's named after a person? To find out more about the organization or the persons involved in the scholarship, what their mission or purpose statement is, what their goals are, what the reader's expectation is. If, for example, the person it's named after was really focused on community service, speak to that. Recognize that your audience is interested in community service, and what experience do you have with community service? Maybe you participated in a club that did some community service hours, so you can mention that in your essay. If they're asking for specific examples, make sure that you meet that expectation. So look at their prompt, look at who your audience is, who will be reading it, what their goal is, and make sure you're answering that in your essay.
Excellent. Definitely make sure that you align your essay with the goals and mission of the actual organization to which you're applying. So you also want to make your essay passionate and personal. Okay, so you really want to let the reader know who you are, what makes you unique as an individual and deserving of this scholarship. Okay, so take time to consider why you selected your specific field or career path and tell and really how does this create your unique qualities. Okay, what are some of the personal reasons that led you to where you are now? Okay, the more personal you make it, the more inviting and interesting it'll be to the reader who reads your essay. So definitely think about personalizing it.
As you're preparing too, there are pre-writing strategies that you can use to break down that step so you get ready when you're drafting your essay. And we'll go over a few of them, including identifying or writing a list, mapping or webbing or spider webbing or bubble map, reflective free writing process, and outlining or creating a reverse outline.
All right. So one of the ways you can kind of get started is to create and identify your qualities and or make a list. Okay, so or some of the pre-writing strategies that you can use are identifying or making a list, mapping and webbing. You can do reflective writing or free writing. You can do an outline or a reverse outline. So we'll be going over these in more depth as we move along. So you discussing the identifying or listing type of pre-writing strategy. So you really want to just list your strengths, your challenges or obstacles that you're currently facing or that you've overcome in the past, any accomplishments, organizational, professional leadership experience. I really want to make encourage you all to not just list your accomplishments or list certain obstacles that you've faced or list what organizations that you're in, but really talk about how your role in that particular organization made you a better person, help you grow as an individual, and help you maybe learn possible leadership qualities, okay? And if you're talking about an obstacle, you really want to talk, you don't want to talk about it like it's a pity party. Gosh, this is terrible what occurred to me. You want to talk about it as something, the obstacle, how it made you overcome, okay? What you learned from it, how it made you a stronger person, okay? So you can, so don't just list the stuff. Really think about how your experience makes you unique and really qualifies you for that particular scholarship.
And as you're brainstorming, maybe you want to be more creative, maybe listing isn't your cup of tea. So you want to do something like mapping or webbing. These are all different strategies that you can use to help you get started in writing your essay. So your web might look like this, where you're the person in the center, you're talking about your experiences, and then you go on to milestone and you describe 2 different milestones, or professional development and you describe that. It doesn't have to be as artistic. You can also just do bubble maps or spider webbing. So this is the way to get started instead of saying, okay, how am I going to answer this in 5 paragraphs or 250 words or 500 words? Start pulling out the experiences that you want to talk about. Like Dustin mentioned, what activities were you a part of? What clubs did you join? What leadership qualities did you get from that? So from there, you'll start seeing the different branches and seeing what themes you want to touch on or what recurring words you want to expand on in paragraphs for your essay. And there's also applications and websites to help you with this, like MindMap is one of them. So there's some online activities or online resources you can use when you're drafting your essay too.
Excellent. Okay, so the next strategy, pre-writing strategy, reflective or free write, okay? So this is really an exercise to really deal with and overcome writer's block, okay? If any of you have had trouble starting, an essay, this is really a way to kind of get your ideas flowing. And you really want to write in kind of a stream of consciousness. Um, uh, Lack of structure. Don't worry about grammar, spelling, or punctuation. The goal of it is to really just get ideas on the paper, and then hopefully that will lead to some type of ideas or themes that you can wrestle with in your formal essay. Okay, so it really doesn't matter what you write; just start writing. Okay. Now, so this is a quote from Allison Law, Student Learning Center at UC Berkeley. And this really kind of encapsulates what the purpose of a free write really is. Okay, so you should follow the flow of your ideas and you shouldn't pressure yourself to fully tease out everything. You should not censor your ideas. You may be quick to discount an idea, but if you give it a chance, it may actually take you somewhere totally unexpected and extremely productive in terms of writing a successful paper. So, really take, I know we're always taught to, write with structure and grammar but this is really one time where you really want to do away with all those restrictions and just really try and get ideas on your paper.
And once you've generated those ideas, then you can start formatting the structure of your paper. So you can create an outline, or you can use an outline to fill in the different answers to the questions that you'll see here and in the worksheet we'll do later on to kind of get an idea of how to get your paper started. So you might start with your major. What's your major? What would you like to do with your major? Your characteristics, so your values, your strengths, your challenges. Your involvement in activities. What are you involved in? Why are they important? What is your role? Were you the president of your club? Were you a social chair? So what roles did you have and what did you learn from that? What are your leadership skills? You'll notice that a lot of these are what we looked at earlier too, like when Dustin was mentioning when you're creating a list. So there are different ways to get you started thinking about responding to the essay. So sometimes students say, I don't know, I'm a freshman. And what do I write about in my scholarship essay? So this is a way to start thinking about what have you done that you may not recognize that you've done, or what have you done that you don't talk about every day, but when you write it in paper, you see, oh, actually I was the president of my class when I was a senior. And then you use that to answer, okay, why should you be awarded this scholarship? What makes you unique? How will you contribute to society? How will you use the scholarship? So be specific. Other than say, I really could use the money right now, what will you use that for? Will it help you with transportation, with internet connection, with books? So make it specific so that readers start seeing who you are as a person, start seeing your story. And another way you can check your draft is with a reverse outline. So in your outline, you're saying, this is what I plan to write in each paragraph. A reverse outline is what you do once you already have a draft of your essay. So you can use that draft, look at paragraph 1, pick out what you think the theme is. Is it your major? Did you go off topic? Did you plan for it to be your major, but now you're talking about your mom's best friend as a story? So you can use it to check against your outline to see where might the reader get lost. Where do I need to make it more clear? Where do I need to make that its own paragraph? So it'll help you determine what you want to include and what you don't want to include at the end when you're drafting your essay and nearing that final draft.
Excellent point. Yeah, and that really leads into, the next slide, which would be to organize, organize, organize. Okay. Many people lose out on scholarships because they don't adequately address the prompt and then weave that prompt through their entire essay. So organization is really going to help make sure that you continually address the prompt and that each of your subsequent body paragraphs address your thesis. Okay, so some ways you can do that. You can just keep the prompt readily available. So post it, put it on a post-it as you're writing, copy and paste it on the Word document as you're writing. And you can use this prompt to identify whether or not you are answering the question that the scholarship asks. Okay. You can also underline your thesis, right? Highlight it just to make sure that you're referring back to it continually. You can underline transitions and topic sentences to make sure that your paragraphs flow from one to the next seamlessly. And like Denise said, refer to your outline, okay? And that will help you reorganize and delete things that aren't necessary, okay? I like to call that thesis your roadmap, and if you don't have that thesis really mapped out and succinct, you're going to be lost throughout your essay. Okay, so if you have that map, that original thesis really strong, succinct, and you refer back to it, your reader shouldn't get lost throughout, reading your essay. And then lastly, when you're reading your essay, if something doesn't address your prompt or your thesis, take it out. It doesn't belong in that essay, right? It's just wasted language, okay? And it's going to prevent you from making your word count, okay? So a lot of these scholarship essays have to be very succinct. So wasted language is a big problem often, okay? So you can do without, you can make sure that you don't have wasted language or unnecessary language by using these outline and organizing strategies.
Do any of you currently use these strategies when you're drafting an essay, be it free writing or organizing it or outline, reverse outline, listing? You can just raise your hand. Oh, cool, I see a thumbs up. All right, nice. All right, so you already have experience with this. Maybe you have done it for your English classes. Maybe you have done it for an essay for your major. You have experience with this and you transfer or you translate those experiences when you're creating your essay draft. So those skills that you've learned in your classes, making sure that you know your audience, making sure that you're speaking to them, that's gonna help you when you're applying for these scholarships too. That's how it translates from outside of the classroom. And we have some do's and do nots. So when you are writing your essay, make sure that you use a theme or quotation to guide your essay. A quote can be a little bit cliche. So if you start it with a quote, that's not as original. But if you wanted to, let's say you have a quote in mind and you want to show your experience related to that quote, you can use it to guide your response without necessarily including it. So like Dustin mentioned, you can put a post-it with the prompt on it so you can see it, or a post-it with the quote that you're trying to exhibit through your experiences, through your story. You want to share your personal goals and values, share your achievements and failures and how they shaped your life. So you want to have that growth mindset where if you had a failure, it happens, we're human, but what did you learn from it? How will that change how you proceed the next time? Share your past and current involvement in activities. Use specific examples. These readers are reading so many essays that having specificity and examples will help you stand out versus someone else that says something similar. You can use chronological order. You can ask for feedback and revise. So you can ask roommates, family members, the writing center. There's a lot of different resources you can use so that people can tell you how they perceive your story. Maybe it's not coming across in the way that you intended to. Write an active voice. So I wrote this essay versus this essay was written by me. So take action behind what you're writing, what you're saying. Do not repeat information that's already on your application. Don't overly praise yourself without examples. Don't write about controversial topics like politics or religion because you don't know who will be reading your essay. You don't know if they have a different perspective or different view. So it's better to stay away from that. Don't blame others for your shortcomings. Don't use cliches or colloquialisms. Don't recycle your essay if you're reapplying. It might be the same readers, so they might remember that essay and think, well, this person didn't put as much effort into it this time around. Don't use absolute language like I never do this or I always do that. And don't write in passive voice. I had a student write once, the struggle was real. And that's colloquial. That's, I understood what they meant, but someone else who might have been older may not have understood it. So try to avoid using colloquialisms or cliches or jargon because the reader might not be familiar with it. They might say, what struggle? And when you are revising and editing, make sure that in this process, revising is when you're looking at the essay as a whole. So are you addressing the prompt? What's your overall structure? What's your paragraph structure? What are the strengths and weaknesses? Make sure that's clear, that your style's consistent throughout your paper, that you've met the word count. If they ask for 500 words, make sure you're not giving them 1,000. If they ask for 500 words, make sure you're not giving them 250. So revising is looking at the overall picture of your essay. Make sure that it's clear, understandable. And then editing is looking at the sentence level. So looking at spelling, looking at grammar, punctuation, tone, word choice, typos. You don't want to fix every spelling error and then have to take out a whole paragraph and you spent time fixing that spelling error. So first look at it as a whole, and then when you know this is the final product I want to submit, then go sentence by sentence and look at spelling, grammar, those different topics.
Okay, cool. So Denise, I'll do the next 2 slides, okay? And then you can start back on 15.
All right.
So, so when all that is done, all those steps that Denise described are finished, okay? You want to do your final proofread at the end, okay? So it'll work better if you proofread for one error at a time. So you may want to look for, comma splices or, highlighting each particular punctuation mark at the end of each sentence to see if that's the correct punctuation to be used in that situation. You don't want to rely on spell check or autocorrect entirely. Yes, use it, but only as a supplement to really, reading it yourself, having others read it as well, okay? You want to use fresh eyes, okay? Maybe take a break and come back and read read your essay after you've had a break to kind of think about it for a minute, right? Words, when you just write them, they all seem perfect, right? But if you lay that essay down for a couple days or a day and then come back to it, you'll be able to view it with fresh eyes and you'll probably see a lot more mistakes. Read that paper out loud, go ahead and, go to the park and read your paper out loud. Look like a crazy person out there. But this is one of the most effective ways to really hear your essay out loud and understand if it's clear, if it makes sense, or if things are out of place and don't make sense. Okay, so really reading that out loud is really a good tool to review your essay, but also find mistakes within your essay. Okay. You can also, Denise is a big proponent of using Google Translate to read your paper out loud. If you don't want to seem like a crazy person in the park reading your essay aloud, let Google Translate do it for you, okay? Yeah, Denise, you have anything else to add on that slide there?
Yeah, sometimes you don't realize that you have an extra the. So you might say, I was the president of the club until you have it, until you have someone else read it out loud to you, or until you have Google Translate read it out loud, or you read it out loud to someone else. You might not realize you're missing an or an and because your brain automatically fills it in. So getting that extra pair of eyes, or maybe sharing it with someone, or going over Zoom and talking to a friend with it over friend about your essay and reading it to them can help you catch those errors.
All right, so additional tips. Um, if you went to Exploring Scholarships on Tuesday, you know how to access the BSA scholarship app. But visit CPP Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships. That's a great hub for scholarships that are available to CPP students. But I think a real big key in attaining a scholarship is using time management. When all of the people on a lot of the people on this line have actually read scholarship essays, and you can instantly tell who's prepared, who's organized when they submit their essays. So if you're writing this essay the night before it's due, your reader is probably going to be able to tell that. You're not going to have as organized or polished of a product. So, you can use time management for this. You need to schedule out ahead of time dedicated writing times, you know, build it out like it's a class assignment, as opposed to just something that you have to do on the side. Okay. Create personal deadlines to pre-write, to complete your essay, and to receive feedback before the scholarship deadline. Okay. Write that scholarship essay early and proofread it often before submission. Okay. So that's going to take some doing on your part. You can't procrastinate and wait till the last minute. The readers of these scholarship essays can always tell if you've rushed it and just submitted it right before the deadline. Okay. So in order to, get fresh sets of eyes on your essay, you should have as many people read it as possible, right? Your friends, your mom, your aunt, tutors at Arches, EOP, RAMP, the Writing Center. Let your peer mentor read it. Okay. So the more feedback that you have and you're able to integrate into your essay, the more polished product that you'll have to submit. Okay. And lastly, this last tip, a lot of students, and this goes for letters of recommendation as well. You got to remember to thank those who help: donors, references, recommenders, essay reviewers. And if you do happen to get that scholarship, don't forget the essential part of actually writing a thank you letter to them, to the scholarship organization. This is going to make sure your bridge of communication stays open. And number two, it's just a really polite thing to do. Okay. They were good enough to bless you with the scholarship. The least you could do is thank them formally in a letter. Okay.
And let your recommenders know if you got the scholarship. So oftentimes we write letters of recommendation and then we think, well, I wonder what happened. Did they get it? Are they in the final round? So just keep in contact with those people that maybe looked at your essay, or if you have a advisor that gave you some feedback or what's your letter. It also helps build that relationship in case you need a future letter for another scholarship or for an internship or a job. So we always like hearing from students.
Yeah, your recommender took the time to write that letter of rec. And oftentimes the person who recommends you is more excited than you when you get the scholarship. So don't leave them out of that excitement. Okay. All right.
So here are some examples of ways you can make your essay better as you're drafting them. One is to give concrete examples. So your first draft might say, I'm a very hardworking individual. And your second draft, you'll say, at my current job, there is a lot of downtime. Instead of just sitting around, I stay busy by dusting, cleaning, and preparing for the next day. I take initiative and look for things that need to be done instead of waiting to be told what to do. So there, you're showing that you're a hardworking individual. Rather than saying it, now they can picture you as a student taking the initiative, preparing for the next day, sanitizing, which is very important right now. So you're showing them instead of just telling them.
All right. And you also want to pique the reader's interest. Okay. So in the first draft, you have my reasons for choosing medicine are multifaceted, and my decision was gradual rather than the result of one grand moment. Okay. The second draft is a little more interesting, right? It's unlike most people who spend their Christmas Eve at malls or on vacation, I spent mine moonlighting as one of Santa's elves at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. Okay. So they're both kind of conveying the same thing, but one is definitely more interesting and will definitely draw the reader in. The first one is kind of mechanical and um, you know, it's not something you want to lead with to kind of interest your reader. Yeah, definitely, Daryl, an attention getter for sure. And then I was watching a Toni Morrison documentary, and she used to be an editor, and so she was really big on editing like people that did humanities or wrote legal uh, books, things that were tended to be very mechanical. And she helped them actually put more powerful imagery into their writing, even if it was history or even if it was politics. Okay. So that's something you should definitely do in your scholarship essay.
Yeah, and we had a helpful tip from Abigail too, who says the read out loud feature in Word can help you when you're editing it because they'll read punctuation. So if a sentence is too wordy, it needs a comma, it helps you hear your essay. So if you all have any other tips that you used or any other suggestions, feel free to add them to the chat and help your fellow students when writing these scholarship essays. Another example or tip that we have is to avoid cliches. So cliches such as happily ever after or I'm a diamond in the rough, something that is just used too much, too frequently, that doesn't make it unique for you. And you can also do that in terms of what you're writing about. So in your first draft, maybe you're writing about your dad, who's the most important person in your life, or maybe how you plan on following in the footsteps of your high school mentor. Although this might be accurate, it might be true, other students may be writing the same thing. Maybe they're writing about their mom, who's the most important person, or their high school mentor. So maybe something that multiple people are writing about, and it might run the risk where you're focusing too much on the influential figure and not on you. So make it your story. Readers just want to know about you. So if this person has had a significant impact, you can still use that, but focus on how it made an impact in your life. If your mom was sick, how did you help her manage her illness? And what did you learn about your own abilities to face life's greatest challenges? What did you take from it? How did it help you grow as a person? How did it help you develop your skills? So avoid cliches like quotes when you're introducing your essay, but also in how you respond in topics. Make it so that the reader is getting to know you and sharing and getting to know who you are and how the scholarship would benefit you. So having someone look at your essay as you draft it and as you go through these drafts can help you identify that. If they say, well, I mean, I'm really hearing more about your mom in this first paragraph, which is interesting, but how did this affect you? And we're going to practice. So I'm going to paste in the chat these worksheets. You may need to print them out or just refer to them as a template if you don't have a PDF editor, but it's the way to get started as you are drafting your essays and getting ready to submit these for scholarships. So I pasted the link on the chat. You can click on that and it'll open it up. And we'll work on these to get you started with responding to the different prompts.
Yeah, so we really want you to leave this workshop with something tangible that you can use when you write your scholarship essay. So this worksheet is really excellent at kind of getting you started. So if you could, we'd like you to actually begin the first few of these questions, okay? Maybe not scholarship name because you don't know that yet, but maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so you can talk about your goals, your academic goals, your major, your career goals, additional personal goals. Why did you choose these goals? Your accomplishments, your awards received. Um, and then do you see how underneath the awards, the accomplishments, there's what have you learned from your accomplishments? Okay, so this is going to prevent you from just listing your accomplishments. Oh, I'm the bomb. I do this, I do that. Sorry, that's an old word, the bomb. I was told that before, but I'm still using it. So this will prevent you from listing. It'll help you say, well, why why did I receive this award? What leadership experience did I learn? And what did I learn from these accomplishments? Okay. Number 5, your experience, work experience, community and volunteer experience. Okay. And a lot of, especially young folks, freshmen, they're like, I haven't been involved. What do I put? So I often tell people, hey, were you involved in your church? Did you teach Sunday school? All that can be, um, did you tutor your nephews? Did you tutor at a local elementary school? So really broaden, your perspective on what it is that is volunteer experience. It could be family oriented. It could be church oriented. Okay. So you just really have to look at your experience and expand it. Okay.
And since you're in this workshop, you're likely part of RAMP or Polytransfer or EOP, Bronco Scholars, Arches. So look at that too. You're involved on the campus community. What have you done? What have you learned from it? Have you
That's
helped out in any of the events?
Yeah, that's a really good point. A lot of you're involved and you don't even know it. Um, and if you're not involved, this is let this be a learning experience that you need to get involved in some aspects of campus life or the community. Okay. Um, what makes you unique? What are the obstacles you face? Your unique life experiences, financial need. Okay. And then lastly, is there anything else the scholarship committee should know about you? Okay. So just take a few minutes and just jot down some answers to these things that kind of get you started thinking about writing a scholarship essay. So we'll give you a few minutes to jot down some quick ideas. Okay, folks, we're going to give you about 2 more minutes to jot down some quick ideas, and then we're going to discuss for about 5 minutes. And then the last part of the workshop, we'll take any questions that you all have. Okay, folks, let's try and share a couple of your answers. I'm really interested in like the follow-up questions, like why did you choose these goals, or what have you learned from your accomplishments? So does anyone want to just go on out a limb and share your goals and why you chose those goals? You'll forever be viewed as awesome in our eyes if you volunteer.
I can go.
Okay. And what's your name, sir?
Cindy.
Cindy. Okay, Cindy. Go ahead.
So for my career goals, mostly I put that I want to be a pediatric nutritionist. And then I put that I chose those goals because I want to help battle childhood obesity, and I want to focus also on food security for kids.
Perfect. Okay. So your goal wasn't just a financial or a career goal. You really wedded your goal to your interest and your passion, which is, food insecurity, and educating, young people how to eat nutritiously. So excellent job. Okay. All right. Does someone want to volunteer for the accomplishments section?
I could go.
Okay, perfect. All right. So, and really, we want to pay attention to the what have you learned from your accomplishments. So, go ahead and share.
Well, I mean, my biggest accomplishment was getting into Cal Poly, because I doubt myself a lot. So being able to do that was a big accomplishment for me. But being here allowed for doors to also open up to me that I never thought were possible. So my most recent accomplishment is that I have been invited as a member to the NSLS on campus, the Leadership Society, and that has shown me that my skills, my leadership skills, have been acknowledged, and that I'm able to pursue avenues that I hadn't thought were possible.
Excellent. Excellent. And I love how you viewed actually getting into Cal Poly as an accomplishment, right? I mean, we're all here, but we forget that's a huge accomplishment. And then you really took it one step beyond, right? You showed, what you learned in your experience in your extracurricular activities and how you were validated in your leadership skills. Okay. So that incredible job, Monique. Thank you so much. All right. How about work experience? Does anyone want to share that? and tell us what you learned from your work experience or your community and volunteer experience?
Oh, may I go? Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. So for the community, so I chose the community and volunteer experience. So I volunteer like during my high school year, like I 11th grade, like I volunteer at the KYCC, that stands for Koreatown Youth Community Center. And then the the reason I chose to volunteer there was like because I love to like like teach kids like and then like yeah and then like hang out with them like so like I started doing that volunteer, and then what I learned from that is like actually like I didn't have like that much like teaching experience. Like it was like kind of hard to teach kids, even though yeah and then like I was kind of like enjoying it with like the time with like spending time with them, and then like also so what I learned the most was like I can like I can have influence to like a community, like help like others, like that gave me like that I wanted to help more people with like what I have ability to have. Yeah.
Wow, excellent job, John. Um, I really actually like how you said the volunteer experience um, helped you realize you had certain deficiencies in teaching, right? So a lot of times, experience don't just tell us what we have, but they may tell us, what we need to work on, right? So that's excellent. And not only that, it's really personal, right? Uh, you're working in your community. You're doing something. For your community, not for yourself, right? So this is really a personal quality I think would add a lot to your essay. Great job. Excellent.
Yeah. And it shows that you're overcoming this um, challenge. Like it is hard to teach kids. There's have so much energy. And but you didn't let that deter you. You found a way to teach them because you want to help students. So you're showing all these skills and these qualities that you have without saying, I meet challenges head on. Like you're giving an example that shows it. So the readers can see that. And you've completed this like first page, but there's other worksheets that we wanted to share with you too. So here's another one that can help you as you're developing your essay. It asks you like why you think you're an excellent candidate for the scholarship, why you deserve it, what your goals are, values, and then it asks you questions to help identify your values. So what's important to you? What has guided you in making the decisions that got to where you are now? So if you're thinking, I don't know where to start, look at these questions and start jotting down some ideas of what you can write about. And here are some concrete examples, like what we went over, and action words. So instead of saying, I did this and I did that, you can use different verbs to make it a little bit more interesting or keep your audience engaged. So I influenced other students at my church or at this community center. I built a club that helps parents and students on campus. I organized. So you don't want to use all of them in your essay, but you can sprinkle them in to keep your reader engaged and show different skills that you have and how you accomplish that and how you're showing it to the reader. And then here's a suggested basic outline of how you can write your essay and what to include in each paragraph. And remember to send a thank you note after you're selected.
Yeah. This is also a really good template for building a resume, right? If you haven't built a resume yet, using those action words and these accomplishments also work for that as well.
And it can help you get a letter of recommendation. So your recommender might ask, like, what have you done? Like, I definitely want to write you one, but I want to make it specific, just like you're making your essay specific. So if you can send me a resume showing what you've done, what you've been involved in, that can help me tailor the letter to you specifically. So it's all sort of feeds into each other, just like your English classes helps you with organizing your essay. This can help you with creating a resume. Your resume can help you with getting a letter of recommendation.
Right. And don't be offended if recommender asks you for more information, right? it's so hard to write a letter of rec with minimal information, especially if they don't know you too well. So this kind of brag sheet can really help.
So we wanted to leave a couple of minutes at the end for any questions and answers that you may have. You can type them in the chat. You can raise your hand. You can unmute yourself. We want to answer any questions since it is scholarship season and we want you all writing these essays and applying to scholarships.
Does anybody have a question for Denise or Dustin?
So you mentioned in the presentation that on Tuesday there was an app you guys talked about, but I wasn't able to go to that presentation. Can you tell me what app it was, please?
Are you talking about the Mind Hub, or are you talking about the worksheets?
There was a work an app about gosh, what was it?
Yeah,
I think.
Justin, I think it's the Broncos Scholarship Portal.
Oh, Bronco Scholarship Portal.
Yeah, so you can find applications on that site. So if you go to the financial aids website, there will be a link to that. A lot of the applications are going to be due by March 2nd to be turned for the 2021-2022 academic year. There might still be some there for this academic year as well. So our presenter did review that portal extensively on Tuesday.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Go for it, Anthony.
Some scholarships that I'm trying to apply to require a supplemental essay. I just want to know, is it okay to repeat the same information in my general application essay if the essay prompts are similar to each other, if they're asking for the same things?
I don't think it could hurt, but I don't think it could hurt to make it as different as possible and really tailor it to the question. What do you think, Denise?
Yeah, I think if it's similar, what you can do is you can focus on a couple of qualities in one essay and then additional qualities on another essay. So you have that space to expand on your experience and write about what you learned from those experiences. So instead of repeating yourself, it gives you a little bit more space to expand on it. You can add more about your leadership or your goals or what inspires you. So you can go deeper if you have more space to do that if there's similar questions. You want to think of it as like the reader that's reading this essay, they don't want to read the same thing over and over, and they don't want to see exact sentences repeated because then it's like, well, I've already read this. So it's a way to show who you are and what your story is and what your goals are and make it interesting and keep them engaged. And that may be adding a different example that shows that quality that you're describing.
Thank you.
All right, if you do have any other questions, you can always email us or you can email ramp@cpp.edu. You can talk to your peer mentors, to your advisors at Arches, at the programs that you belong to, and we're here to help if you have any questions about scholarships or letters of recommendation or anything that you might think of even after the presentation.
Thank you, Dustin and Denise. They always do an awesome job presenting this workshop. The essay makes a big difference to your scholarship application. So, take these tips into consideration. And we did have somebody who requested the slideshow. So we'll just go ahead and rather than find out who wants it, we'll just send it out to everybody who attended. And if you're not interested in the actual slideshow, just ignore that email. We do have an assessment that we'd like you to, it's just, I think, 3 questions. If you can click on that, I think it'll be in the chat if it's not there already.
And it'll help us identify what other topics you are interested in having presentations on. So let us know what you want to see presentations on and we'll develop those and we'll get that feedback from this assessment.
Exactly. That's, the main thing that we want behind this is knowing what you as a student would like us to present and help you with. And, I just want to reiterate what Dustin and Denise said as far as using your resources. They said it during the presentation. Denise ended with it. Use your peers, use your mentors, use your advisors. I have had several situations where I read somebody's essay like after the fact. I'm like, oh, if only I could have given them a little bit of feedback before they submitted this essay. I would have, I feel like it could have been a little bit more polished, or there's some bit of information I know about that particular student that I think would have been very effective in the essay. We have a hand up, Monique. Go for it.
Yeah, I just thought about a question. I was wondering because I do plan to apply to a bunch of scholarships through CPP, but there are, because I'm hoping to study abroad next year. There are scholarships outside of CPP that I want to apply for. Do you have any tips or advice for how to apply to those, or is it really any different than applying to CPP scholarships? Yeah.
I think pretty much there's similar, it's a similar technique that you're going to be using to write these essays. I think the main point is the specificity, and make sure that you do the research on each particular organization, right? So you want to make sure you align your essay with their goals. So I think as long as you do the research and tailor your essay to that specific scholarship, it's not really any different.
Our presenter on Tuesday also mentioned doing some research, like making sure the scholarship is legitimate. You shouldn't ever have to pay to apply for a scholarship or to be considered. But if you research the organization, that's something that you'll find too as you're researching it for your essay. And also when you apply through Cal Poly, the readers may have some access like your GPA, and you might already have that information, what your major is. And if these outside scholarships don't have it, you may want to find a way to work that in. So they may not see that you have a 3.5 GPA in biology. That's awesome. So you may want to work that into your application or your essay if they don't gain information directly from the university.
Okay, thank you.
Definitely. And don't, forget about your local city, your local chamber of commerce, your local business owners, right? You're a lot more apt to get a scholarship from, your local community because you have some roots there. Okay, so don't discount your local community for scholarships as well.
We want to thank everybody for attending, for participating, for engaging with your questions. And again, as Denise said, you can reach any one of us if you do have more questions. I want to thank Denise and Dustin for taking the time preparing this presentation and doing a wonderful job with presenting it. So thank you, Dustin and Denise. You guys are always awesome. So give them a round of applause using your reactions. Again, if you can do that quick survey, even if you click it in the chat, you don't necessarily have to answer it right away. Just click the link so that you have it. And everybody have a good afternoon and a good rest of the week. So thank you, Denise and Dustin.
Thanks for being a good audience.